No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, so anyway, that being said, this committee, I don't know what council is going to do going forward. We've notified Les Melberg, Nicholas Melberg Mozzato, of the results, and he's on hold. No money's being spent. Nothing's going forward until council is reorganized and we go forward in figuring out what our next direction is from council at this point, okay? And that's, I guess that segues into next steps.
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
Who talked to Les Melberg?
I did. I only
You were
gave
the
him
only
the
one.
election result, yeah. I told him
Okay.
that the city manager would update him after this meeting.
What was his, did he have comments, or what do you think is, how did he feel about the whole thing?
If he had comments, he didn't convey them to me.
You said okay?
Yeah.
He said that if he had you told me that he said if he had
Advance notice of this meeting.
he would have loved to have come.
Yeah.
And he was going to try to rearrange his schedule to.
Right, but he's also in Reading, so I wouldn't have asked him to drive all the way down here.
Phil, it's not a big surprise to him.
Yeah.
His business focus is cities.
Yeah.
So.
And this happens all the time.
And I'll bet he looked up, somebody in his office looked at the results
Yeah.
or he
Oh, they do?
They were-
But just to be clear, I'm not taking any lead or anything of communicating with him. I mean, I think this is a committee purpose, and all the communications really do go through the city clerk. So she's kind of the point of contact. Okay?
We'll be in touch with him after this meeting.
Or city manager.
Right.
All last year was just city clerk, city manager, one-stop shopping.
Still is.
Okay.
So Elizabeth, what's our goal for this meeting?
This
Remaining
meeting
goal.
was just an update to gather around and say, for me, to say thank you all, one and all, for all of your hard work going, getting us to this point over the last 2 years. And that I'm happy that the election turned out the way it did. Not surprising because there was no opposition. Every council member was in favor of it. But you never know when there's an election. And so, just to notify you that.
And what tells you that we can't keep moving forward? Why do we need to wait for a new council to be seated?
Well, I just think that there are, maybe I'll let the city manager kind of jump in on that.
Sure. Well, we had 3 issues on the ballot. We had the Little League, we had the library, and the town center. And part of the issue with the library was it going to go in the park, or did it need to go here? Well, the electorate said it's not going to the park. So now something's going to happen here. That kind of dovetails into the town center issue. If the library is going to be here, how is it going to look like? Does there need to be some sort of plan that might be different than what this committee originally thought? So that's going to go back to the council in December as 3 reports. Little League, this is staff's recommendation of how that should proceed. Library, this is the results. What do you want to do next? And Town Center Task Force, this is the result. What do you want to do next? Do you want to look at the 2 combined? Do you want to look at a master plan? How do you want to move forward? So they're going to see that issue in December, but they probably won't take any action or make any recommendations until January.
So we're sort of voluntarily pausing because we've never been asked to pause.
Right, suspended, I guess. But no, there's been no official.
We've never
saying
had a direction from council to, if the election comes out, blah, 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 then we want to stop. We're just doing that voluntarily because we think there may be clarification coming, and why proceed before we get that? Is that okay?
I just think that would be prudent to do.
As a resident, I think after all the ups and downs of this election and the last period of time, I would hope that the council steps back and looks at all the committees involved and figures out a way to hopefully get people to work together.
Okay.
And so I think it would be imprudent of this group to say, well, let's just continue plowing down the road. I think George and the staff is going to come up with some suggestions for the council, and the council should spend a little bit of time thinking about how to see, what is it they want? And I hope the council will be extremely clear on what they want.
Yeah, the only thing, that what I was gonna say, which is harmonious with that, but maybe a little different slant, was we've been very careful and attuned to going to council, asking for permission and direction, and then doing what they said, and then when we get to the end point, coming back to them and saying, we did what you said, what do you want us to do, we're reporting what do you want us to do next. We haven't got to the next report in, is all.
Right.
We haven't, because we had sort of a directive, and we haven't finished that. So the only thing that's a little bit awkward is where I hear why, what you're both saying, but we had a directive to go do something, which is work with Les, come up with plans, come up with pricing, come up with tentative fundraising, and then report back, and we're sort of stopping before we do that, is all.
So having our project be put on the ballot kind of circumvented our
Yeah, okay.
our direction. Because if it hadn't been put on the ballot, we probably would be in a public outreach campaign mode at this point, figuring out the marketing and going out to the public as we had laid that out. But because in July, the council decided to stop, and essentially we stopped then. I mean, we haven't met since
Yeah,
then.
right,
We
right.
stopped then.
Got it.
And so we can't really start up until we get more direction. And,
Yeah, it makes sense.
okay.
That's
does
clear to
make
me,
sense?
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to kind of get it back into
Absolutely.
my head.
Yeah.
Got it. It's
He's
all
ready to
coming back
go.
now. It's all back, yeah.
I'd like to make a
Just like
comment.
Celine Dion.
I'd like to make a comment along that line. Our direction is not clear. The council has to make some decision. And I think we as a committee ought to offer to disband at their say-so and be reconstituted as something like the Atherton Community Center Coalition. Hopefully they would find some folks that would help with the library and put together a team to look at the whole general plan, overall planning of a community center. Community is part of the library, center is part of the town center, so you begin to put people together. But I would suggest we should offer, the council doesn't have to do it, but we should offer to stand down and disband.
If that's a motion, I will second it.
I don't think we can take an action. Can we take action?
Well, it
No.
says here next steps.
Why, it says next step?
Well,
It's next steps, I mean, you can certainly take a consensus.
a consensus.
Well, one way you could handle that without taking a motion and voting on it is to direct George, as staff is considering the report they're gonna send to council, the new council, when they're formed, that would be something that we're open to contemplating.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Is there any appetite, do you think, on the council or within the town of doing, I guess the proper terminology is a general plan?
The master plan?
Master plan.
Master plan
Master plan.
study?
Yep.
Do I know if that's something that the council is going to do? I cannot speak for council because that hasn't come before council recently. And I know that just from what was brought to council, it seems like there's a lot of appetite from a lot of residents. I don't know if it's a majority of residents, but a lot of residents. And so yeah, I think that's what city manager is talking about, maybe bringing to council as for discussion purposes, some alternatives, and that would be one of them. So, yeah. But do you feel like that?
Well, for what it's worth, I feel that would almost be the first step is to, because you have the library and, it's, as you say, it's obviously thrown into the town center complex. And so, wouldn't you, and I think you even said in some of your campaign speeches that you'd like to see a professional, a city planner or a professional put all the parts together.
Sure, yeah, just look at it holistically rather than, yeah. So that's my personal,
Well, I think you're right, Sherman. That precludes all the other discrete steps that we want to take. The town center, library. It's the integration of all the town facilities, the property, and how it all fits together. And that's a discrete activity than what we're doing as a team here and what the library has been doing. So I think it's necessary. I don't know, again, how it's gonna play out in council, but.
Yeah,
Well, we had a large response to that question
yes, you did.
a year ago.
Yeah.
So, I think there's an appetite, and it makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense if you're gonna be building however much the entire project and, separate or together could be, the town needs a plan.
I would think the council would be more than happy to hear that we would be very willing to disband and reformulate as some kind of a amalgamated committee. So we just shouldn't sit there and say, we're not gonna do anything, we should say, we're willing to be part of a master plan committee or whatever you wanna call it, or some members would be, anyway.
Sure, yeah.
So the master plan committee is distinct, would it include later on the town center and library? It's just everything now, okay?
Mhm.
It's that coalition.
Well, yeah,
Right.
so,
You guys-
Another way
I
to
think
say it is, we're willing to rethink what going forward means, and we can be
Mhm.
part of that
I
if
think
we
we
like.
serve at the pleasure of the council.
And,
Yeah, we
That makes sense.
and make that step forward.
I think that's a
Good
good
Right.
idea.
Path to success.
So that's a consensus. You got
So her-
Sandra? Thank you. So next steps, I think those are our next steps, and hopefully, you all can come to our, council meeting on, December 19th. It's the end of the year, and, some things will be, discussed, and, then we'll break for holiday and have a great holiday.
Is that the first meeting of the new council, or is it a
Mhm.
calendar? That's the first meeting of the new council.
It will be, the new members will be sworn in at the time of that meeting.
All right.
Okay, any more business? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Hi Denise.